chocolate this afternoon? Okay, sorry, I always forget. Okay, so what's interesting here is that y'all should have talked about this with, when would y'all have touched on this? Surveillance versus surveillance. Have y'all had that conversation? I think I might have mentioned it when y'all were I think I mentioned it maybe when y'all were freshmen with Fahrenheit 451. And what happens when surveillance is at its peak, when surveillance is the best it can be, surveillance starts happening. And surveillance is when you no longer need a higher entity or administration to observe you and to make sure.
Neighbors start doing that?
It's when you start doing it to one another.
What's that say when you key to
Paradise.
The key to paradise was for poor people. Good. So that's what starts happening, right? Is that neighbors start telling on each other, right? If they don't have these fundamentalist ideals. And of course, wine and partying and alcohol isn't part of those, the regime's way of life. Okay. So they talk about here how someone told us you were planning a party. You know that it's strictly forbidden. And so the police come in. They found records and video cassettes at their place, a deck of cards, a chess set. In other words, everything that's banned. So y'all can get the idea of the kind of things that are banned. And we see it later in the chapter with how Margie's parents have to smuggle in posters of like westernized like rockers, right? And so it's interesting here that those are things that are banned. This is another like funny thing. They're having a party. What party is it that Margie goes to?
It's a celebration of
It's like a baby shower. Okay. And it's interesting to what happens here is I really think this is funny. So they hear the sirens and they start freaking out. And it says, y'all, also it's really funny, the uncle that makes the wine and because wine is illegal. So it's like their uncle who was like a chemist or had a lab makes the wine, and his maid is the one who like stomps the grapes for the wine. And she's saying, God forgive me in the tub while she's making all this wine for these like illegal parties that they're having. And so the siren comes. And it says, suddenly sirens started to wail, and my aunt did too. So again, it's her baby that they're celebrating. It's all right. Stay calm. The aunt throws the baby to Margie. I found myself with the newborn baby we had been celebrating in my arms. Her mother had already abandoned her. And then here it says, since that day, I've had doubts about the so-called maternal instinct because her aunt literally was like, take the baby, I'm running, because they're so afraid of the police, right? So that's a funny little panel there to enjoy. Okay, on page 105, I'm going to write this quote about all the things that are banned. A lot of them are westernized games, right, and things like that would have not been allowed. Okay, so again, for this one, chapter 14, which is the wine, we just have this one quote. They found, it's on the bottom of page 105. They found records and video cassettes at their place, a deck of cards, a chess set. In other words, everything that's banned. And again, that's at the bottom of, the bottom of page 105 there.
Why, I don't understand why, I get like the westernized.
They just don't want it. No fun.
I get that, but
No fun
like
in the country.
chess, I thought that would have been like,
Sorry.
I thought that would have been like something they would have allowed.
Yeah, because it's like stimulating or
And like
whatever.
intelligence.
Yeah. I feel like if they were just not drawing the line anywhere, they were just gone with any type of like gathering or entertainment or fun, right?
So whenever like it switched over to the regime, they were supposed to just like get rid of all their stuff.
Yeah, it happened a little gradually. They started with the way they dressed and then it went into their homes and what they could have there.
Huh.
Yeah. All right, so the cigarette, that's what we were talking about with our Padlet today. If y'all remember at the beginning of it, where does she sneak out of school to do? What? Kansas. And what is Kansas?
They serve American style food.
Yeah, right. Burgers, hot dogs, all that fun stuff. I also think it's hilarious that, so she gets caught. So they basically go to, and she finds out because she's with a bunch of older girls, right? She's only 12. No, she's 13. So she's 12 and all of her friends that she went with were 14. And so she was trying to be cool and she realized they weren't really going for burgers. Why were they going? Boys, right? And so she gets in trouble when she gets home. Her mother knows because the school has called. And it's hilarious here because she lies to her mom about what class. And she's like, Mom, all I had was religion class. And why would it, like, y'all get how it would be okay for her to skip religion class because her mom's views. So she lies. And then her mom's like, I know it was grammar. Like, you skipped grammar class. And so this is like their first fight that we witnessed. Well, I mean, there's been a few little ones, but this is truly when she's starting to rebel. She's hanging out with older girls. She ends up smoking the cigarette alone, right, to show her, dictator, you are the guardian of the revolution of this house. Y'all try telling your parents that next time you get into a fight. That probably won't go well. Okay, good. So basically,
Lauren, you said you died for us freshman year.
I did, and I don't remember the context, but I
okay, so eventually, so guys, eventually Iran is able to get back that town or the city that I can't pronounce. And so it says here, we all thought that the war would finally end. In fact, Iraq proposed a settlement and Saudi Arabia was willing to pay for the reconstruction to restore peace to the area. But our government was against it. They declared, we refuse this imposed peace. We shall conquer. And then it was like this other word I can't pronounce. It was a Shiite holy city in Iraq. So they had an opportunity. Iraq offered them a settlement. There was another, Saudi Arabia agreed to come in and help pay for the rebuilding of the country. And yet they refused it. And again, hopefully y'all understand that from our Padlet discussion. They refused it because being able to be at war with an external force made things better for the regime internally. Okay. So then they plunged deeper into war. The walls were suddenly covered with belligerent slogans. This is a slogan that she literally would walk around seeing in her town. To die a martyr is to inject blood into the veins of society. Yeah. So again, what are they telling their people?
But they're still living with their dead.
Yeah, exactly. And that
They're
this is
still living, then they're not a
Don't
martyr.
don't they get 72 virgins after they die? Isn't that most
So
of
like,
the
he
Christians?
is saying, I'm alive, I'm dead.
Okay, so I'm going to quote this one here. To die a martyr is to inject blood into the veins of society. And we understand what that means, right? This is on page at the bottom of 115. And then, of course, we have also the famous quote that we've already talked about. They eventually admitted that the survival of the regime depended on the war. In the name of the war, they exterminated the enemy within. Again, so this meaning, how do we want to say here? It can be the regime, right? My hands are gross. Okay, Margie has the coming of age here. It's her first fight with her mother. She has a cigarette and it says, with this cigarette, I kissed childhood goodbye. And again, smoking a cigarette doesn't mean that your childhood is gone, but it's symbolic of her coming of age. So hopefully y'all understand that. If I ask you, name a symbol of Margie's coming of age, what would you say?
Cigarette.
The cigarette. Okay, so again, the cig is a symbol.
What page is that on? You quote?
It's the last page of it, 117. And I'll put that here too. Almost like a paraphrase there.
Wait, where'd you just write?
Just beside the title.
Oh, what's?
What does it say is to inject what?
Blood into the veins of society.
Huh?
Blood into the veins of society.
When's our, you said there's 2 quizzes on this?
We've already had one, and our next one will be Monday. Okay, I'm gonna take a picture of this and then I'm gonna erase it and just right here so we can keep that light on. And then we just have 2 more to cover and then we'll be done. Oops.
It's Monday? What? It's Friday. Wait,
All right.
it's Monday, Monday?
Monday, tomorrow's Friday.
Oh.
So I'm gonna review those chapters and then you'll have your last quiz on Monday. And then we're gonna do a project on the end of the book and you'll start your essay too.
No.
All right, so wait, which one are we on now? The passport, what chapter is that? 16? Oh, let me get this back where it was, I don't know.
This chapter was so sad.
Yeah, it was really sad, wasn't it? Okay. So, the passport. Okay, so we have, can y'all see it? Can y'all see? I don't have my glasses on, it's really hard for me to see. Okay, so we have 1982 as the year, and now the internal war have become a bigger issue, is bigger than the war on Iraq. So did it work to stay at war? Did it keep the internal war at bay?
Somewhat. It wasn't the effect.
Can y'all see? Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, good. Okay, so, and it's her uncle Tahir, right? I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Tahir, I'm not really sure. He's smoking, right? He has a heart condition. And he's upset because where did he send his son to protect him? Holland. Yep. Right? Wasn't it Holland? And so all he wants to do is see his son again, but people are telling him to quit smoking. And he's like, look, it's not the smoking that's going to give me another heart attack. What does he say will give him another heart attack? Yeah, it's all of the executions that are happening to children. It's the grenades that are being thrown, right? Again, the war is on the home front because it's internal. So he has another heart attack here. And he needs to be sent where? Where can he get the attention?
England?
Yeah, England. Good, Manny. And so they have to go to the director to get a passport approved because the borders had been shut from, I think it was 1980 to 1983. Wouldn't that be crazy?
No,
And
79, 80.
okay, I'm not sure. You could be right on that. And so about 3 years is when they were shut, right? And I feel like we're experiencing a little bit of that because of COVID, right? Like kind of feeling trapped, right? But could you imagine, and I don't know how long international travel and things like that, but 3 years to not be able to go anywhere is a long time, okay? I hope y'all picked up on the fact that who was the director that they had to go and ask permission?
The window washer.
Yeah, their old window washer. How is it that he, a window washer, is now in charge? How does that happen?
Isn't there
He's
like
He
a-
supports the regime.
Exactly. All he has to do is be supportive of this regime, right? Fall in line, and he's given these privileges, even though he's not. We don't necessarily know a lot of his background. And again, I'm not saying that a window washer in America, certainly a window washer can become director of a hospital, right? But I hope y'all understand here, it's to highlight how easy it was to rise and the incentive that people had to follow the regime because they would be given these positions of power. Okay? So I'm going to do that quote here just so we remember to understand that. The director was her former window washer.
Did the dad have to get a fake passport?
Yeah.
But then the guy who was making it,
Well, yeah, he escaped, right?
or his son died.
Okay, and that's on page 121. It's sad because he goes to a guy who makes fake passports, but then who is he housing? Who is the guy who makes fake passports housing?
Communist.
A communist girl, right? She's found and executed, which is really sad. And then he has to flee, and he flees before ever making the passport. And so that was going to be an expedited way of them to get her uncle out of the country to get the surgery he needs. But now they're dependent on the government. The government takes too long, and her uncle dies, ironically, the day the passport's delivered. Okay? So again, this idea here of this power is totally warped here. And the idea that they're using people's health, right? Holding it against them. Okay. All right. This last one, Kim Wilde. It was chapter 17. That was the last one you had to read last night. I want to do a quote here of all that Margie wanted. She wants really simple things that a lot of us, y'all have, and I certainly had as a child too. A denim jacket, chocolate, poster, one of Kim Wilde and one of Iron Maiden, right? Like she's punk rock. It's the 80s. She's really getting into all these punk rockers. And they get her writing Michael Jackson, pin, all of these different things. Again, there may be so many ways that you feel like you cannot relate to Margie, but do we see that no matter where she lives, no matter what language she speaks, she's like any other teenager, right? She wants the things that you guys are lucky enough to have. You don't have to smuggle into your country, right? So I want to do that quick because I do think it's significant. And again, these will hopefully help you with your essay where you are relating yourself to Margie, okay? So a denim jacket, chocolate, a poster. No, 2 posters. One of Kim Wilde.
This tester, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Not a single person decided where they were going to be born.
It's true. That is very
That's
insightful of
crazy.
you.
Isn't that crazy? Because you weren't alive.
Did you know
So
not a
she's-
single person asked to be alive?
Yeah, same time. Same thing.
Okay. All right, guys, that's on page 126. Okay. So her parents go to Turkey. It's when the borders open up. They go to Turkey. And are they able to get these things for her? How do they smuggle the posters in?
His
jacket.
Yeah, it's sewn into his jacket. Pretty clever there, what they do for her. Okay. Also, too, I want you to remember how Margie is stopped by who?
Oh, that girl, Chief something was it?
Guardians of the Revolution. And what do they specialize in?
Making sure the women wear their veils.
Exactly. So do we see how even though they have all of these restrictions, Margie is still wearing her Nikes, right? And I would imagine her Nikes look really similar to some of the ones y'all wear today because we're recycling fashion, right? The high tops. and her denim jacket, which we all have today too. Her Michael Jackson button. Did y'all pick up on who she lied? Who did she say the button was
Malcolm
of?
X.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And she's like, P.S. This is when Michael Jackson was black. But she goes, well, that's Michael Jackson. That's a symbol of decadence. And she goes, no, it's Malcolm X, the leader of black Muslims in America. She's trying so hard to be like, no, it's a black Muslim that's on me. And she's like, don't give me that. It's Michael Jackson. She says, what? I don't know him. She's pretty gutsy here, right? And standing up to them, she ends up lying and kind of getting out of it there. So again, this chapter really shows how Margie is just like many American teenagers, right? And what she wants. Okay? All right, I'm gonna come around and stamp your homework from last night, and give you your homework for tonight, which is the Shabbat and the dowry. Again, you're finishing the novel, okay? So enjoy these last couple chapters. We will discuss them tomorrow. Jalea and Peyton, I'll post all of this for you, and we'll see you tomorrow, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.